fine, I guess. If I just don't get far enough on screen, will they just not blow wind? Seems to be a yes. Fine, I won't destroy the cleaner. Feel free to clean, as long as it doesn't incur a death spider. They are making me regret not grinding for the gear. So it was 3 sets of raptors. Then it started with the eyes. Okay, no spider. Seems to be no spider. guess that must have been it. If you destroy the sweeper, you get Death Spider, and Death Spider kills you. That's cool and interesting and fun. Why are these things still alive? These are definitely empowered from the ones outside. Leave the sweeper alone. Dag doesn't even attack the sweeper. Now what? Clone. Clone is dead. Dag clone. You know what? Never mind. I, for one, definitely love that the hitbox for the bazooka shots is absolute garbage. You know, this thing can just get into line of sight, shoot you, and be out of it before you can do anything. One more Magmar. They tried to damage Q, killed me. But I wasn't gonna have it. Uh-oh. It's bad, it's bad. Is there anything I can do to you? Let's try a slow burn. Just for the sake of it. You healed yourself. I don't feel comfortable with this amount of health. Stop it. Hey. Okay, final boss time. No. No. This is the Carltron I remember. If he starts getting on you, you will die. Like, end of discussion. Crush isn't doing business. Slow burn, because why not? Let's try explosion. Even worse. You know what? I need help. They're not helping. Now he's exploding all over. Might as well use these for healing instead of a heal spell. No combos. Ooh, I want to do that on multiple. In fact, primarily on dog, not me. Please use that on my intended target, please. Thank you. You know what? Dog's not even like really firing because he's not getting on screen enough to recognize the target. Ooh. Well, right now, dog is dead. And the reason why dog tanks a lot of hits is because it just stands in the way when you don't really need to be in the way ever. Rude. This is what sucks. Sometimes he jumps and gives you space to deal with, sometimes he doesn't. And if he doesn't, you are not safe to attack. But it's random when he does and doesn't. You have no idea what he's going to do in that respect. Yep, he did a short hop, so I took damage. Bam. So, that's the end of all that. Well, the ending was, well, it was interesting to, like, see and look at, but it just kind of happened, you know? It was like, you have to go get the people and get them out of here, and then you go and get them out of there, and then you're out, and it's like, well, guess we're back in real life, and then it's over. You know, I mean, I guess there was never really a lot of feeling of stakes in the game overall. Like, it was always just things happen, you go and deal with them, and then they're dealt with. And it's like, you as the player were always, like, involved, but you were very, like, not actually invested in the world. Like, you weren't a part of it. There wasn't really a reason for you to feel deeply for the stuff in there. I'm not really, like, I don't mind it. Like, it kind of felt like you were more like a visitor who, you know, thinks it's so cool that you're in this world, and, you know, it's interesting in its own way in that sense. Like, being the, like, total outsider that that he seems like he is. He just is. He owns it, and it's okay for him. Does not mind. You know, there are other games where it's like, this plays out like a game that's like in a simulation. You know, it's like you're just there, you're doing things, you don't really feel like you're dealing with something real, even if you end up, like, getting invested in the stuff there. But I guess this game didn't even really have that element. Like, the people in the acts, like the people from Earth that were living there, they had investment. But the main character, no, you were just there to make sure things turned out okay. Which, I don't know, I think it's fine. the way it was presented. As for the atmosphere, a lot of it's not for me, like musically, audio-wise, not really for me, but it's skillful. They, you know, they did a good job with what they did. Post-credits. Oh no. That's cute. Like, I guess that's the main word for it. It's all very cute. Like, you have this thing you can only have with a American written game that you didn't have in most, like, RPGs in the 90s. You had to go to, like, PC stuff and, you know, systems and consoles that were more open to global development. Like, SNES wasn't really there yet. There were plenty that came out that weren't from Japan, but it was still mostly a Japan thing. Like, a lot of what wasn't Japanese developed was a port of, like, Amiga or something. There were a lot of EU games that were Amiga ports. Anyway, yeah. Overall, they did a really good job. Just a lot of what they did wasn't really for me. The like basic code of the engine, at least, is a big step up from what Secret of Mana had. Like in terms of how they did movement and damage setup and queuing of things and hit registration. That's all really good. It happens quickly, snappily. It's a lot slower and less focused and harder to understand in Secret of Mana. So they did step up like the actual basis of the engine really well. But yeah, I think ultimately the thing that killed this game the hardest was time, because like Act 4, you can tell that there was a lot more there, but it was just stripped down to the absolute bare minimum to include what they had. Like, there was no story, no, like, people. There was one NPC other than the professor that you interact with, that I see to go to one other NPC. And then there's the automated shop, and that's it. Yeah. Like, you can tell that with this game, they worked from the ground up. Like, they made it right as they could, or as right as they could, given probably concessions to keep some semblance of a schedule. But then at the end, they just had to, like, drop it on the floor, put it out as it is, fine. You know, because, like, Act 1, probably the best act. Act 2, you can kind of tell that there were points where they're like, okay, let's just get you to the content, get you through it, and then there are, gimmicks. Act 3 is very, short and light. There is not a lot of actual interaction going on. There's one town with a ton of people, there's one town with 2 people, and then there are a couple dungeons in between. And each one is completed so much faster than the one before it. 2 being kind of an exception in that there's a lot of time wasting going on with the market and the desert, but I don't really count that. Like, in terms of actual stuff you're doing, the amount you do goes down a lot. It's like Act 1 is very structured. It all plays out very well. You're given clear ideas of what to do next and get through it. Act 2, Act 2 is fairly well structured. But once you get to near the end, they just say, okay, there's 2 dungeons, you have access to them, go do half the act's worth of work. And it's cool that they give you the choice of 2 different places rather than just railroading you through it all, and I think that's what they were going for. But, I don't know, Act 2 is fine. It feels like an Act 2 should be, in that sense. Act 3, there's very little. You're sort of directed in very short bursts of information, and you just kind of do the things and then it's over. In Act 4, there's just nothing. You just go, you get to the end, they tell you to go get the core, and then you finish the game. Everything that's there is just stuff that you happen upon and get through without any sort of direction or anything. It's just stuff. Anyway, I don't fault them a lot for that, because again, that was a time constraint thing. It's not a failing on their part. And the game is still fairly buggy, but I pretty much passed them on that for the same reason. They probably didn't have a lot of time they could budget to that kind of stuff. But most of the bugs you experience aren't in your face prevalent, makes it hard to get through the game, or major mechanics just don't work. There's not much, if any, of that. But the actual game design, the layouts of the dungeons, the gimmicks of them, the way things work, isn't fun. Very little, if any of the dungeon navigation or things that they put in to make them unique is fun. There are 3 gears for each area you go through: towns, fields, dungeons, whatever. They're normal and inoffensive, nothing really wrong here, but nothing really getting me into it. There's annoying, this is slow and boring, but not really a detriment. Or, they tried a thing and it just came out as annoying rather than fun. And then the 3rd gear is completely terrible. Why did they think this was a good idea? Why did they think that a huge pipe maze with 20 different paths and exactly one is progress? Why did they think that was cool? Yeah, teleporter maze in the dark. There's grates. When you're solo dog, there's grates in the dark, under of the castle. There are a lot of spots like that, where it's this isn't cool or fun or interesting, it's just bad. Like the first inside map of Bug Muck, that is also bad, but it's not like horrible. It's just you just walk the paths till you find all the wrong paths, and then you're at the right path. It's just you try paths. If they crumble out behind you, you have to take the chute back to the start and try again. You know, it's just repetition. It's not like memorization because they stay destroyed behind you. So you end up with just the one correct path. But you know, I could describe like every section of the game and whether or not it's just fine, annoying, or terrible. But there's none that I can say was really fun, really got me into it, was really cool. The most fun I had in the game was the final boss, which was like a huge gauntlet and had multiple things that can just kill you if you're not on top of it or if you're unlucky, including the final fight with the final boss itself. You can never really attack it safely. Just period. The dog never like detects that there's an enemy there to attack because it stays up at the top. Okay, the reality with the marketplace stuff is it's a fine idea. Like none of it is required. You don't have to do that. It's all for extra stuff. That's why it's fine. But the thing itself is also, once again, not really fun because it's just like this web of writing things down and doing things in the right sequence and having enough money to fund the whole chain of events. And it's fine, but it's... The thing that sucks about the trading stuff is that they have another one in Act 3, and the one in Act 3 requires stuff that you can only get in the one in Act 2. And if you didn't know that, you can't do anything until you're at the end of Act 3 and in backtrack mode. That is a pain in the butt. The alchemy is fine, but it comes in two gears. One is, I never want to use this because I'm going to use something that feels finite, and I don't want to run out. And the other gear is, I have so much of this stuff, and I can just burn through it with no regard, and I can just stomp on everything. And there is no challenge to the game because I have 99 casts of heal that will fully restore myself. The fact that weapons all have their own individual experience instead of like categorical experience is also a huge pain because the game gives you new weapons so frequently that you never really have time to get any levels on them, which means you're not getting charge attacks, which means you're not doing decent damage. The only ones that I maxed out, or, well, no, not maxed out, the only ones that I got to level 2 out of 3 were the Act 1 weapons. And the reason for that is because Act 1 is actually fleshed out and good. Like that was the problem. Because the game got like more and more squished in and rushed, you had less and less time to actually use the weapons that the game mandated you have. Because you have to have one of each weapon for each act. Has to happen. So, because you keep getting them faster and faster because there's less and less content to go through, you have less and less time to get them leveled up unless you go back and sit on them and grind. Like, I think if they were like more aware of that fact that you just didn't have enough time between weapons to get anything leveled up, they probably would have gone with the categorical experience, because I don't know, that seems like if they had time to do everything they wanted to, that would be a no-brainer to include. But again, not really their fault. But I don't know. I guess I've probably rambled on long enough. I at least wanted to make sure I got through to the 2 minutes of the end before the fake end starts, or the post-end credits start and go to the end. But that already passed several minutes ago. But yeah, I guess final assessment of the game, it's what they could do is decent enough. They should have cut down on the gimmicks in dungeons. Absolutely. It's all terrible padding when they put in a big gimmick for a place. Like, it's never an interesting addition. It's always annoying. But what they did, what they, had the resources to be able to do, was all just fine. I mean, I'm not going to say people are wrong for liking the game, but I don't think the total product is very good. It's a good sign that the people that made the game know what they're doing. Like, absolutely in that regard. But the product in a vacuum is not that good to me.